Hey, want to learn something Asian? The Opium War. You see, in the early 1800s, Britain found itself able to trade with China, for items such as tea, silk, porcelain, and anything like that. The British were happy to get this trade that they had wanted for a fairly long time. Except for one problem. You see, the Chinese themselves didn't actually want to buy anything from the British. So they were basically giving the British some of their stuff while making fat stacks of money. The British obviously didn't like this, so they started thinking of ways to put the trade in their favor. And then they had an idea. Drugs. Or more specifically, the opium plant that the British were harvesting in their colonies in India. By smuggling the opium into China, the population got so hooked that China entered an uncontrollable spiral of trade with Britain. And Britain started to gain more and more control over their trade with China. China, of course, didn't like that. And so the emperor, along with his official Lin Zisi, worked together to have all opium destroyed and make sure the British couldn't trade it anymore. Again, the British really did not like this. So what did they do? Yeah, and the Chinese got absolutely smoked. And so after that defeat, the Chinese were forced into signing the Treaty of Nanjing, which gave the British a bunch of new trading ports in China, including Hong Kong, and the British were now in control of the trade. And thus ended the First Opium War. And I say first because, there's a second one. You see, despite having more control over their trade with China, Britain wanted more. And what was their excuse to get more? Well, apparently, in the Cantonese region of China, the Chinese had accidentally impounded a boat known as the Arrow, which was a British-registered trading vessel. And this gave the British the perfect excuse to strangle China by the throat. And so Britain, along with the help of some French boys, sailed to China, proceeded to give them another thorough beating, and forced them to sign the Treaty of Tianjin, which not only gave more trading ports to Britain and France, but also gave some to the US and Russia. However, China, who was justifiably angry about being annihilated for a second time, decided to capture the British envoy that was heading to Beijing to ratify the treaty, which again, the British did not like very much. And so they went to Beijing to give the Chinese another thorough beating, and even burned down the imperial summer palace of the Chinese, which mainly happened because the British had found out that the Chinese had tortured and killed the British prisoners they had. So it was kind of fair. And so after the Convention of Beijing, where the Chinese had to sign the Treaty of Beijing, more trading ports were opened. Russia got a bunch of new territory in China because why not? And of course, opium was legalized in China, baby, let's go! And thus was the end of the Opium War. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.